Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome to the return of our weekly Q&A live stream. We're back in business here in the channel now that I have returned from Munich, and I missed doing this on Monday night. I must admit, it's one of my favourite times of the week. It's the time of the week I get to get some voices from the viewers of the channel and answer all your questions, and it's been a busy week, of course. It's been a huge week at Celtic Football Club. We have had the highs of Champions League football and the incredible lows of Champions League football. We've had a lot that's came with that game and a lot of chatter afterwards, a lot of admiration around the whole of Europe for Celtic's performance at the Allianz Arena on Tuesday night. And yeah, it's kind of took us into the weekend where, yeah, we've got to accept the reality. We are now out of Champions League football for the rest of the season. There is no more European football to be played for Celtic, sadly, despite our greatest efforts. And we've just got to go with our domestic dominance, I suppose, now. It's just a treble for Celtic to win this season. A lot of positivity, though, to take from it. I'll try and cover everything that we need to in tonight's video. And, of course, there is that huge story which has broke over the past 24 hours surrounding Rangers. Now, I know this is a Celtic channel, and I know that there will be Rangers fans who are quick to say, oh, you're here to talk about Rangers. I can't believe it. But let's call it how it is. It is a story that has major implications on the Scottish Premiership. It has major implications on the derby. You know, Celtic and Rangers have been separated heavily by the running of both clubs in the past, well, more specifically past 10, 15 years, but you could say for the best side of this millennium. So if there is truth in this story, which there seems to be, and it looks as though it could happen, it obviously has massive implications. So we will talk about it as this stream goes on. We'll try and cover everything, but mostly, of course, in relation to Celtic Football Club. One of these channels on here, though, where I try my best to look at things with a level head and look at things the way that we should, nonetheless. It's nice to be back. It's nice to see you. Over 120 live viewers as things stand right now. I feel sorry. My heart goes out to the 49ers Scotland page, which, of course, if you don't know, is a Celtic/49ers fan. And in this situation, it can't be nice for you. All I can say is, I don't like the 49ers anyway. Never have. Go Birds. That's it. What smell the gloves in? Hey, Ryan, I've been a 49ers fan since 1984, but not anymore. Fuck them and all their Joe Montanas. Well, listen, don't worry about it because I've been crap for the past 25 years anyway. Go Birds. Yeah, let's talk about Celtic first, and then we will talk about the whole... I'm sure that there will be a few Rangers fans. At least I already know that there's one in the chat just now. Gaz is in there. I'm sure there will be Rangers fans that want to hear what I have to say about it. At the end of the day, I know there'll be a lot of Celtic fans going, who gives a fuck? Pardon my French, but we'll get to it. We need to talk about Celtic this week. We need to talk about Champions League and moving forward from the disappointment of Tuesday night. I made a full 20-25 minute video last night talking about my opinions on the game and everything that came from following that game, and I can't help but reiterate it now that we sit here in a live stream capacity when I get your questions and thoughts on it. I'm so proud of Celtic and their performance on Tuesday, despite the absolute heartbreak of the final whistle blowing and realising that we were 30 seconds away from extra time. It was truly a real deflating moment, and maybe the most deflating moment I've ever felt in a football stadium. I've been fortunate enough to grow up in a lifetime following Celtic, but there hasn't been much major disappointment. I was far too young to remember Seville, so I don't remember the deflation of Seville in 2003. I've never been in a stadium for any of the humiliating derby defeats. Yeah, I've watched us lose to Rangers a couple of times, once at Celtic Park, and I remember one time Hampden losing to them in extra time, and yeah, it was deflating, but that on Tuesday was absolutely the most deflating experience that I've had in a football ground. But it was deflating for only an hour or two. Well, I was deflating for longer than an hour or two, but really after an hour or two, I was able to sit and appreciate and be proud of what Celtic had done, and give me a lot of optimism heading into next season and heading into our new Champions League campaign. I don't want to sound like a broken record from the video I done last night. I suppose you can all go and check that out if you haven't seen it, but you know, it's all about using that as the foundation, as the building blocks to do something special and to back Brendan Rodgers and to making Celtic a constant Champions League side, a side that can compete to the last 16 and beyond in the Champions League. And look, I've accepted in my lifetime I'll probably never see Celtic do what they done in 1967. Christ, I've accepted that in my lifetime I'll probably never get close to seeing what Celtic done in 1967 or 1970. That would be a pipe dream, but what I do want is the belief and the ambition behind the club from a boardroom level, a fan level, that we can go on another run, and that was proof that it can happen on Tuesday. Now, I know Rangers fans will like to laugh it up and talk about how it's just typical Celtic and disappointing in Europe and not winning their European games. They'll have a laugh and a joke about it. That's what rivals do. But I think that we all know as Celtic fans deep down how much that meant and how optimistic it can make us feel. And that's what I take from Tuesday's game. I take the disappointment along with the optimism. And I guess one of the things that's to be a coping mechanism, you could say, is the fact that if it did go to extra time, I don't know if we could have held on for another half hour. We really would have had to find another goal. But look, listen, it was a great experience. I loved Munich as a city. I thought it was a great trip. I'm trying to think of the positives, and I'm sure that you guys have got a lot to say about that game on Tuesday, which I will get to in a moment. Celtic now turn their attentions back to the Scottish Premiership, a division, a league where we are 13 points clear at the top. Let me just get the SPFL table up, shall I? The SPL table, I should say. It's a pet peeve of mine when people say the SPFL table. The SPFL isn't a league, it's a body. It's a pyramid. This is the Scottish Premiership table in all of its glory. Right now, as we move into the weekend, as you can see, Celtic top by 13 points as things currently stand. The league is effectively over, even if Rangers were to beat us twice in the remaining 2 derby games. We would still be 7 points clear. I think it's too big of a gap for anybody to overturn, let alone Rangers who aren't exactly at their best. So yeah, it's all about getting back to focusing on this, to focus on winning the Scottish Cup and bringing home another treble. It's a difficult game we've got at the weekend as well, and no denying that, with Hibs on Saturday. So yeah, it's just about, not letting it bring us down. I don't think it will. I think you've seen the emotion clearly and the devastation, the disappointment on the Celtic players' faces as they left the pitch. If emotions were running high, we've seen tears from McGregor and Yang and whoever else. They're just a notable photo in Rio Hatate. But Rodgers will keep them headstrong. McGregor will keep them headstrong. It's not, you can't blame them for showing that emotion leaving the park on Tuesday when they were so close to making history. But, he'll keep them headstrong, as I said, and he'll keep them focused on the task ahead of winning a domestic treble. And I'm pretty confident that we'll do that. I came on here following the defeat to Rangers in January when Rangers beat us 3-0. I came in here and I said, with my chest on the match reaction that day, that I believe Celtic will win a treble. And that was after losing 3-0 to Rangers. One of the worst Rangers sides we've seen in recent memory, and not even just recent memory, in the existence of Rangers Football Club. So I was confident then, I'm even more confident now. Take it a game at a time, focus on the task ahead, and I'm sure Rodgers will drill that in. Very quickly, thank you to Kyle for being a member for 4 months. 4 months, that's mad. Remember, you can become a channel member if you like, using the join button below. So this is a massive game for Celtic and a great Champions League campaign. Yes, for the money, but also the players. You can convince them to come to your club with that money. Yeah, well, look, listen, I hope that this is a stage that Celtic have put themselves on. Look, we've signed big players this past year. We've brought in Kasper Schmeichel, a Premier League winning goalkeeper. We've brought in Jeffrey Schlupp, a guy who has 300 Premier League appearances to his name. We spent £11 million on one of the most promising young midfielders in the German Bundesliga. And I hope that these guys can be the example to players round the continent that Celtic is the place to go. And I'm hoping that our run in Europe this season is the example that players will use to go, Celtic's an attractive move, Celtic's a good move, not only for the sake of my career and advancing and taking that next step, but also just to bring forward the point that Celtic are still one of, and always have been, always will be, one of Europe's premier biggest clubs. And if we can get ourselves back to that level where we're competing with the big boys, Celtic is a place to be. And that's what I hope they can take from guys like Schmeichel, and they can take from guys like Schlupp and Engels, and all these other players who've got Jota coming back, Kieran Tierney coming from one of Kieran Tierney is about to leave a potential Premier League title challenging side to come back to Celtic Football Club. And I know that that's circumstantial with what his fitness record and such has been, but it's still a huge, and he's a boyhood Celtic fan, of course, which plays into it, but that's still a huge indictment of where Celtic are. The fact that he could probably find a move elsewhere with bigger money and a bigger stage, but he's coming back home because we are one of these sides. So yeah, a lot of positives to take from Tuesday. I'm trying not to be downbeat at all about it, because what would be the point? I think that there is so much positivity. And yeah, let's get into your questions, shall we? Let's talk. We'll do a wee bit of questions. We'll talk about the Rangers apparent takeover and a couple other things. But yeah, it was a fantastic game on Tuesday night. We were unlucky. If our finishing was better, we could have had more. We could have won. Could say the same about Bayern if their finishing was better. Thank you to Alistair for a member for 5 months. You're an absolute legend, mate. Thank you for the support on the Thunder Club video earlier as well. Celtic need to give Rodgers the keys to the safe in the summer. New deal for the manager. Well, I can't help but reiterate the exact things I said in last night's video about how Brendan Rodgers is one of the best managers in the world, and to give him complete trust in taking this team forward is pivotal to Celtic's next steps in trying to progress in Europe. So they need to back him, as you said, give him the keys to the safe, let him bring in the players that he needs. I think that you can see the skeleton of a team, and now he just needs the flesh and the meat to make this team where it should be. So yeah, Alistair, you're 100% spot on. Thank you, Luke, as well, for being a member for 5 months. Tremendous loyalty. I'm on the 118 club. That's sick. Come on, the 118 club. Let's see. Would I sign Schlupp on a permanent? Yes, of course. After Tuesday night's performance, 100% RXIN. I would take him in. I would pay him a decent wage. Yeah. That's all I can say. Yes, spoke about it once again in depth last night, but 100% that I would do so. I'm just going to answer this because I don't want to be ignorant and not answer it, because I don't have the answer for it. Is there any advice and networking links to becoming a scout? I'm changing career path and want to plunge into a field I enjoy and give it a solid shot. Get in to LinkedIn and find people on LinkedIn who can help you and give you the right advice. Stick in and make it a hobby. Make a Twitter page. Catch some attention. I know people who have got jobs at big football clubs and they started with no degrees or anything like that. They just done pages on Twitter analysing stats and players and all the rest of it, and now they're working at top flight football clubs. So do that. Get on LinkedIn, find the right people to speak to, and that's how you get going, mate. That's it. That's the only advice I can give you, because I'm not a scout, sadly. I see an interesting question. I'll come back to that 49ers Scotland when we get onto that stuff. I still want to talk about Celtic and the game on Tuesday and all the rest of it, you know. And then we will talk about all of that stuff towards the end of the stream, because I guess there is a big conversation to come from that. Ewan saying, what a team, what a manager, what a performance. Absolutely gutting, but every player died for the badge. I was hoping. Was there casualties? No, I'm joking. The board must give Rodgers the backing and the new contract that he deserves. Rodgers is the fucking man. Absolutely. He's the best man for the job. He is the only man for the job in my eyes at this moment in time, and I want them to really, you know, back him and give him what he needs to take us to the next step. Kevin Morgan. Engels has been simply unreal. Can't believe people wrote him off a month into his Celtic career. I agree. And it's just, we had this conversation coming home from Munich the other night, and this is a story I guess I can make us tie into. Me and our mate's friend who picked us up. You know, Celtic are now in the realistic zone where they need to shop in the market of 6, 7, 8 million pound players, not your 2 to 3 million pound players, because the evidence has been put forward by the likes of Engels and Ida and other guys that this is the money you need to spend to bring in the top talents that will get you competing with the big sides. Now, what we've learned from these 7, 8, 9, and in Engels' case, £11 million signings is the price tag carries a lot of a weight of expectation that make people seriously impatient and desperate to see results. Arne Engels signed for Celtic, a young 20-year-old lad from Belgium who was playing in Germany, probably never stepped foot in Scotland in his life, and after a few games, people were wanting to write him off. And I don't think he's anywhere near the final product yet. I've said this all season. Wait till he has a full pre-season under Brendan Rodgers and Celtic under his belt, and I think we're going to see an even better player next year. But the fact that what we've seen in recent months is just maybe a smidgen of what Engels is capable of is a terrifying thought for other teams that we play. So remain patient with all the signings we make. With Arne Engels, don't be rash. Don't jump in and write players off or be desperate to write them off, because it seems there is a segment of the Celtic support who are wanting to do that, and especially the higher the money gets. And Mackenzie asking, how long do I think we can keep Engels? I think one of the most important things that I take away from Tuesday night is that we need to keep this core of players together, the best players, and if we don't keep them together, we at least need to command big fees. And Nicholas Kuhn, I don't want to see Nicholas Kuhn leaving Celtic for £20 million. I don't want to see Nicholas Kuhn leaving Celtic for £25 million. That's not me saying that I think Nicholas Kuhn is a 30, 40, 50 million pound player, even though I think you can argue that he's, this season, every penny of it. But what I am saying is Celtic need to learn to say no to the big boys, even if 20 million is on the table. Because we can't be letting our players go for 20, 25 million when they're clearly outperforming that number, and there's players moving around this continent playing not as good as our players, and we're selling them cheaper. So don't just let them go for these offers, and let them know that, and try and buy them in, and try and give them what they need to succeed, and give the manager what he needs to succeed. That's my overall message. Smell the glove saying, question, Ryan, does Brendan need to go over Lawwell's heading? Go straight to the mustache to sanction funds. I would love to see how much communication there is directly between Dermot Desmond and people at the club, because it seems like he's just out playing golf all the fucking time. So I really wonder how much direct communication there is between them. But you might be right. I need to skip down the chat a bit, so if there's anything that I have missed that you really want me to answer, just keep getting it in, and I'll try and get to as many of the questions and stuff as I can. So yeah, we'll try and get there. Thought that was Alistair Johnson's best performance, easily my man of the match. Yep, it was between him and Schlupp for my man of the match. I think that he was unbelievable. Ida and Engels deserve massive apologies for the stick that they got from all those plums. 20 million well spent. I couldn't put it better myself. I'm not here to label any specific person or certain Celtic fans plums, but I think that you're onto plums when you start jumping in two-footed and giving all these rash opinions. Give people their time, man. It's just not. It's not difficult. This is this is such a cliche thing I feel like to say at this point, because I've heard it a million times off a million different people. But imagine social media was around when Henrik Larsson signed for Celtic. Henrik Larsson wouldn't have survived. He would have been out in his arse because of social media opinions, because everybody wrote him off, and he went on to be one of the club's greatest ever players. You know, he didn't start well at all. You know, that's how it goes. Thank you, Dylan, for being a member for 5 months. I really do appreciate it. Where did Munich rank in your favourite European cities? Currently doing a round trip of Germany. I think it might be my favourite so far. I really liked it. I love Germany. I really like Germany, and I really love basically everywhere I've been in Germany. But Munich would be right up there. I have a personal love for Berlin, and I don't know if it's the history side of it or just the general culture. I don't know. I really, really love Berlin, and I think that might still be my number one, but Munich is right up there. It's right up there, Dylan. And also, enjoy a round trip of Germany, because that sounds fantastic. But I really, really liked it. Let's see. What's your opinion about Yang? I feel like I used to be so critical of him, but the last few games, especially in Europe, he's been great. He's winning me over. His performances have been getting better, and that's all I've asked of him. Especially when there's been days and weeks that I've come on this channel and said Yang doesn't look like a Celtic quality player to me, and I just thought he was so far off it. He's been winning me over slowly, and what I said was that what I need is I need Yang to be consistent and to give me these performances, and he's doing that just now. So I need it to continue. But right now, fair play to me, man, and I cannot take anything away from his efforts recently. There he is, everybody, the old faithful David Buick. He's choking for me to finish this stream. We have a Madden franchise on the go, and they're a fantasy draft franchise, and they're waiting on me. I'm the commissioner of the league, so they're waiting on me. So yeah, we've got a lot of the Austrian painter loved Munich and Berlin. Now you try to compare me with the Austrian painter with a funny moustache. Please, God almighty, we don't need to create that narrative on the channel. Right. Should we? We're in 20 minutes. One of the big stories that I guess that we can get to right now is, of course, that one of Rangers and the potential takeover attempt that might happen in the coming months at Rangers Football Club. Now, this is a Celtic channel, and let me just start off by saying I know for a fact that me talking about this will ruffle favours on either side of the fence. There'll be Celtic fans that say, why are you talking about this? It doesn't matter. You're a Celtic supporter, we're Celtic supporters, and it doesn't matter. There will be Rangers fans who might try to come here to clip stuff and think about what my opinions of the whole thing are. Listen, at the end of the day, my job in this YouTube channel is to talk about what's happening at Celtic Football Club, and apparently, Rangers are pretty significant to the existence of Celtic in the sense that what happens over there does have a gradual impact on what happens moving forward. Now, I don't think this takeover is anything that needs to be majorly dissected on our side. It's pretty fucking straightforward what's happening here. Someone is attempting to go in and take over Rangers, and that was always going to happen one day. I hate to break it to the people who are maybe in denial about it, but Rangers were always going to change hands one day. Just like in my lifetime, I'd probably expect to see Celtic changing hands one day. At one point, Dermot Desmond, whether it's in life or after, if it's his family or himself, I don't know. Celtic will probably move into somebody else's hands in our lifetime. I don't imagine it will stay with the Desmond family in our entire life. And Rangers have been in a state of absolute catastrophe for the last 15 years, that a takeover, no matter if it was rich or mega rich, was always going to happen. So I was surprised at the timing of it. I didn't expect to see it anytime soon, but I'm certainly not surprised that Rangers are in a takeover situation. Now, what people need to do is realise that this is just, like, calm. This is just a natural takeover situation. So, I do have the BBC's article in front of me about it, and basically, the Rangers takeover involving the owners of the San Francisco 49ers could be completed by June. That is the latest reports, with the BBC stating that a takeover of Rangers involving the San Francisco 49ers investment wing is expected to be completed between April and June. Sources close to the negotiations have said there is a quotation broad agreement between all parties, with current shareholders expected to sell or part of their stake in the club in the coming months. The prospective owners would acquire more than 50% of the Rangers shares, while taking on the debt, much of it owed to former chairman John Bennett. So, of course, this is a controlling stake of the club, 50% of it. They would be the majority shareholders, effectively, and they would be the new backers and the new financiers of Rangers Football Club. Which is fine. Well done, boys. Congratulations. You've been waiting for this for years now. Will it get put to use? That's the big question. And that's not for me to comment on. I know I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm a fucking financial expert. I like the NFL. I don't like the San Francisco 49ers, and that's not been spurred on by today, but as a Philadelphia Eagles fan, I don't like the fucking 49ers. I also don't like Leeds United, who they have a massive control in as well, as such I've heard. They've got some form of Parag Maraf, the Leeds United chairman, is the force behind the 49ers investments, the investment wing of the 49ers, and he will now play a huge part in the prospective Rangers takeover. Listen, it's just people. I think there's been such a weird reaction to this online, where you have the people who are clued up enough to understand what's happening here, and then you've got the people on both sides, Celtic and Rangers supporters, who are getting completely carried away by it all. I've seen Rangers supporters going out to suggest that this is it, that Celtic are finished and all that. Listen, this is just steady investment for Rangers, something that they've needed in a long time. It will put them in a very good position compared to where they are now, and that's what they've needed. And in that part, all I can say is fair play, because it was always going to happen, so it doesn't necessarily bother me. This is not a threat to Celtic. Celtic, just to remind you, Celtic are owned by a guy that is worth billions of dollars. One of Ireland's richest man, and one of Britain's, if you include the British Isles, one of the richest men over here. Celtic aren't suddenly going to be dwarfed. And in Scottish football, there's only so much you can do with all of this money, as we have learned in the past. It's not like they can come in and sign Mbappe and spend millions upon millions. Remember that famous phrase, if Celtic spend a fiver, we'll spend a tenner. We've seen where that got Rangers in the first place. They're coming in to help balance the books, to sort Rangers out, to give them the boost and the base that needed to build off. And it will certainly bring interesting conversations to Scotland over the next few years. But if you remember, for example, when Manchester City were taken over back in the late 2000s, 2007, 2008. It wasn't instant success. It wasn't winning league titles straight away. It was about building. It was about coming up and really balancing the club out again. And there's going to be a lot of that to be done at Rangers. It will be a patient process for them. Just looking at it, this is me looking at it not as a Celtic or Rangers fan. This is just me looking at it as a common sense believer, that they will come in, they will have to sort the club. But what it does do is it allows them to make bigger decisions and to certainly try and catch Celtic. But Celtic are still miles away from Rangers in a business point of view. Celtic are so far away. We are Usain Bolt, and I don't know if anybody is familiar with Mae Young, the former WWE legend wrestler. They are Mae Young in the 100-metre sprint, and Celtic are Usain Bolt. That is the gap that they have got to close. And a transaction overnight isn't going to change that. There is so much that has to be done from top to bottom at Celtic and at Rangers for everything to be Rangers catching up with Celtic. So it's a step in the right direction for them. I suppose neutrals and maybe fans who miss competition will certainly look at it as a situation where it's like, okay, this might help bring Rangers back to the forefront of competition in Scotland. It might make league title races very much more exciting, the race for Champions League football much more exciting. But, you know, it's all about time and patience and seeing how it all unravels. So, you know, it could go one of either way. We've seen this before when, you know, Craig White came in to Rangers, and it was this billionaire coming in to save the club, and he was a con man. And I don't believe that this investment group are con men at all, considering they've been involved with an NFL franchise for the past 25 years, got them to a Super Bowl, and they're involved with Leeds United. But, you know, it's not always a guaranteed success. So it could be a great success. They could be back winning league titles before we know it, or it could be another disaster. So it's all about patience. It's all about seeing where it goes. But it's not a threat to Celtic. And for, as I said, for a lot of people, it might be exciting. For a lot of people, it might be the thought and the prospect that they bring Rangers back to be in competition for Celtic. And for a lot of folk, that's what's been missing in Scottish football for the last however many years. Now, from a green-tinted specs point of view, I hope it fails miserably, of course. But, no, you know, it's going to certainly be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see. Now, the reports, as I said, say that it could be completed between April and June. So we'll see where it goes from there. But, you know, it'll put money in the account to maybe go around the sacking of Phil Common. It'll put money in the account to start signing better players and having a bit of a boost behind them. But, yeah, there's a wee while to go there, and we'll just see how it goes. They need it from their point of view. It's something that Rangers have been crying out for an awful long time, quite frankly. But it's not a threat. It's interesting, is what I'd say. We have a lot of people coming through talking about this in the chat. I know Gaz is a Rangers fan, saying, honest person, Ryan, always value your opinion when it comes to it. I do appreciate it. Trust me, I think my opinion is pretty pointless in it all, but I appreciate it, guys. Say, I don't think as a Rangers man it'll make a difference to now, but it will take a few seasons. Yeah, it will, and that's, I appreciate people that can see that, and I think the majority of Rangers fans will. I was out earlier today with one of my closest mates, who is controversially a Rangers fan, one of my closest mates, and we were talking about it as we were out walking today. And he said the same thing, you know, it's not going to be a case of coming in and suddenly winning a league title next year, but it's a step in the right direction for Rangers. I hope it's the other way about, quite frankly. But, aye. What's the highest amount someone's donated? I don't know, I think it's like I'm pretty sure somebody donated like £400 in one night, Ryan, and that was a pretty mad one. It was 300 or 400 anyway. Lupin says, well, the one thing it can do is make Celtic start spend more money. Desmond putting in more. They won't allow them to get near as easily. Yeah, it's a way to look at it. Not something that I've necessarily considered since this news all broke last night about the potential takeover. But it's true, you know, will it push Celtic to being more competitive? I think that from a business perspective, you could certainly argue, and I think most people will say this, that Celtic have slept at the wheel sometimes because things have been too easy. We had the banner about sleeping at the wheel, and we lost 10 in a row because we slept at the wheel. So, you know, it'll certainly push. And I guess from a point of view in terms of Scottish football, for Scottish football supporters, it might help in terms of bringing the league up, and that's just to look at it as a neutral. And it might bring more interest, and maybe somebody will want to buy Celtic at one point. Who knows? I don't know. We'll see. Let's get any more questions. Do you think we should spend big on 20 million plus players, says Connor? Well, listen, if it's the right player and we have the money there, it just depends. It's circumstantial, Connor. It's circumstantial. Where's the hoops top tonight? I just put this on. I wanted something loose. And a lot of my Celtic shirts are getting a bit tight for me. Paul, nice to see you, Paul, saying, realistically, they will surely look to increase the Ibrox capacity fairly quickly to close the 10-seat natural gap in finances. Yeah, I mean, Celtic have a 10,000... Football's biggest moneymaker outside of the Champions League up here is attendance and ticket sales. That is what teams bank on making the majority of their money from. And Celtic have a 10,000 seat advantage in that. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of the first things they try to address. You're spot on, Paul. Whether it's possible or not at Ibrox, you know, we'll need to wait and see, but they certainly will look to address that, I think. But yeah, any word on Kuhn? I've heard nothing around about Nicholas Kuhn, but listen, that's something we'll deal with getting towards the end of the season, isn't it? Definitely no threat. Glad they're getting some affairs in order. That can only be better for us with a stronger challenge, but the reality is they will still pick up 0 trophies this season. Well, that's one way to look at it. Will it be the same next season? Hopefully. And Connor's right, everybody batter that like button. Thank you very much, it would be appreciated. It doesn't worry me at all, it's just annoying. I feel so here's a fun story actually, right? So I've been spreading the NFL bug around my group chat recently, right? And I got one of my closest pals, my pal Callum, shout out to Callum. He was one of the original boys on the Celtic the Thunder, if you've watched it from the start, Callum McKenzie. I spread the NFL bug to him and he's got really into it recently. So we had the natural conversation of like, well, you need to get a team. You need to pick a team. So he done some extensive research into what team he was going to pick, and like he'd done everything from watching YouTube videos to reading articles to even playing bloody Madden just to find a team that he liked and could get behind. And I shit you not, like 4 days ago he said San Francisco 49ers. He was like, that's it, I'm going for the 49ers. I just like them, I like a lot of the players, I like what I've read, I'm going for the 49ers. And then bang, this happens. And I felt rotten for him. I feel even worse for you, son, because you've probably supported them a lot longer than my pal Callum did for the whole 4 days before he's been forced to change team. So yeah. Most American ownerships in the UK football have failed and ended in debt. Yeah, I mean, that is, it's an interesting point. You think of the two that come to mind when it comes to NFL slash football ownerships. The two that come to mind for me is Tony and Sadiq Khan of the Fulham slash Jacksonville Jaguars department, and of course Manchester United and the Glazers at the New England Patriots. No, not New England Patriots, sorry, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So they're the ones that come to mind. And in terms of the footballing side of things, Manchester United has been an absolute fucking disaster for the Glazers, and of course Fulham, I think you could say they've been relatively successful since the Cans have taken over in terms of, they're where they probably should be, if not maybe overachieving at the current time, but they have been down in the Championship and all the rest of it. So, yeah, look, listen, it's easy to compare them all, but everything's individual at the end of the day. We'll just need to wait and see what happens. I mean, I like the Levi Stadium as well. It's one of my favourite stadiums, but I don't know if... I've never been. I only like it because of WrestleMania 31, to be honest. That's the reason I love it. Yeah, go Birds. Right, on that note, we should probably wrap the stream up there because it's been over half an hour, and that's how much I usually let these things run. So yeah, we'll be back in the channel tomorrow, and over the next few weeks we're back in action properly. It's sadly just no Champions League football to talk about, which is a shame, but thank you for tuning in, everybody. I do appreciate your company and your time. And the Red Sox, you've tried to troll me, son. I was like, that's not a bloody NFL, but you're at a wind up, you. I've seen the fucking Discord in 5 minutes, you can't. Right, okay, see you later, take care, God bless.